Genesis chapter 39 verse 1. Now Joseph had been brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard, an Egyptian, had bought him from the Israelites who had brought him down there. Okay, this is our chapter 37 in it, as basically as well, but Joseph being sold into slavery to Potiphar. Okay, here we just have all this information. He's an officer of Pharaoh, he's a captain of the guard, he's an Egyptian, bought from the Ishmaelites. We already looked at the question of, are the Ishmaelites or the Midianites? So I'm not going to look at that question again. Here they're called Ishmaelites, because maybe that is how the Egyptians knew them, that they're from the area, or they want to show that they were from that area. So there were other people from that area, not from a different kind of an area, more so like their specific cultural belonging, but more their geographical belonging. Okay, so they are the ones who brought them down here. Verse 2, the Lord was with Joseph, and he became a successful man, and he was in the house of his Egyptian master. So like Jacob in Laban, now Joseph here in the house of Potiphar. Why? Like God was with Jacob and therefore he was successful, God is here with Joseph and therefore he is successful. Verse 3, his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord caused all that he did to succeed in his hands. So, like Laban before with his father Jacob, here Potiphar saw as well that, the Lord is with him. Understandably, Potiphar didn't know which God, whichever he thought or what he just believed, he could see that he is kind of blessed by the gods. Understandably, Moses is writing this down, so Moses knows which God it is, so Moses is saying, be favored by God. And so he found everything succeeded because God was ultimately with him, and Potiphar could realize it. He was not a fool. Verse 4, so Joseph found favor in his sight and attended him, and he made him overseer of his house and put him in charge of all that he had. Right, so Joseph jumped up the ladder, the proverbial ladder, and all the way to the top, except Potiphar was still above him. I understand it was top of Potiphar, the Pharaoh, etc., and other people. Okay, but now in his household. So in his household he becomes the top man because of what he saw, understanding that God is with him. So he found favor in his sight, and when you see there's a good thing going for you and somebody is bringing you a lot of money, and then you would be kind of a fool to let that person go. Okay, so and Potiphar was not up to that, so he understood and he wanted, like Laban before, he didn't want Jacob to go. So the same way Potiphar does, and he allows for Joseph, and he advances him to the top of the ladder, the job ladder. Verse 5. From the time that he made him overseer in his house and over all that he had, the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. The blessing of the Lord was on all that he had, in house and in field. Okay, so here we see that because of Joseph, the Egyptian's house was blessed for Joseph's sake. Okay, now I've heard Christians sometimes say, oh, there's this non-Christian, and so with all non-Christians everything is going bad kind of idea. Here you have a non-believer, a Gentile, Potiphar, Joseph working a slave for him, and actually God is blessing Potiphar for the sake of Joseph. Right? And then just in the East as well, that's why it's so important for us as Christians to be true to God and be Christians, so that we can be a blessing to the world and not a bane to the world, as I feel in a big sense that Christians are at the moment more of a bane than of any good, because of us needing God and believing more in ourselves than anything else. So he was blessed not only in the house, which Joseph was in command, but actually even in the field, in his agriculture, out there on the lands. Verse 6. So he left all that he had in Joseph's charge, and because of him he had no concern about anything but the food he ate. Right? So everything he had, he let in Joseph's charge, and he was not afraid of anything. He wasn't worried about anything, because Joseph is in charge here, and he could see what Joseph was doing. He could trust Joseph. He could see that all is being blessed because of God. He is being blessed because of the sake of Joseph. So he had no concern, but except for, like it said here, the food he ate. Now that does not mean to say that so Joseph was not allowed to touch his food, because maybe Joseph will then put some poison in the food and will kill him off or something like that. No, this is just most likely. I mean, maybe there was something like that, because we see later on the speaker and the baker, the cupbearer and the baker, that there was this seemingly this kind of thing happened. Okay, so maybe that final trust of this, maybe. But most likely what he's kind of getting at is his personal things, especially when he gets to Potiphar's wife. So his personal things, for that, like his wife. No, I'm saying that's not for Joseph, right? It's not for Joseph's use. Okay. Now Joseph was, at the end of chapter verse 6, now Joseph was handsome in form and appearance. Right, so a little note, and very seldom in the Old Testament you'll find, or even in the Bible, you'll find a mention of that handsomeness. Yes, it was mentioned that David obviously was handsome. Okay, here is mentioned that Joseph was handsome, and this is going to, well, land him in prison. His handsomeness is going to land him in prison. Why? Because now his Potiphar's wife is going to want him. Right? So Moses is making this point that ultimately it's like when Abram and Sarah went down, right, to Egypt, then Abram was afraid that he might be killed because Sarah was beautiful. Right? Now they again in Egypt, Joseph enslaved in Egypt, but this time it's not a guy that might take the girl. This time it's now the girl that might take the guy. Right? And so therefore Joseph's life is going to be endangered because of the Egyptian woman who is going to try to have intercourse with him because he's handsome. Okay, so the same, being handsome those days seemingly never ended up very well. It kind of reminds me of when I was up there in the southern Chin state, of the woman whose face was all like with these patterns on their face. And as far as I've been told by the people there, I know there are different different explanations given for this, but as I was told by the people there, the reason for it was to make the woman less attractive, so that they won't be raped by the soldiers, the marauding soldiers. So that's what they told me there. The woman with the faces like that told me that was kind of the reason in the old days. They seemingly it was a problem there as well. If you're handsome, then you might be raped kind of idea. So they made themselves ugly. Now in this case, Joseph is not making himself ugly, right? Because this is what he is, and it's going to be a problem for him as well.